Okay, Jane, are you ready? I am. Okay, wonderful. Colleague. So colleague. All right. Well, good morning. Today is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock a.m. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-3149. Conference ID 866-914-607#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us online by going
The
to our
spring
website.
brain today pops up.
Live stream is also
We're getting
available.
better at it.
Sorry, I get it. That person muted there. Okay, live stream is live stream is also it's live stream. You can join us online by going to our website. Live stream is also available at tctvonline.com. Click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute their phone. You can do this by pressing star 6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to the public comments email on our website. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email public comments by 12 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners Office, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room, or is anyone registered online for public comment? Okay, thank you. Okay, well, we've already called to order, so I'll just welcome those in the room today and ask you to please sign the guest list if you have not, and then we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Bowe, would you lead us?
You will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I just have to comment, there were a couple of times I was in Washington, D.C. this last week, and there were a couple of times where I was in a room with hundreds of people, and in one case, a couple of thousand of county commissioners, where we said the Pledge of Allegiance. And I think that it's something that we can either do very rote and just your mind's doing something else. But when you're in a room of 2,000 public servants who are all standing together and taking that pledge at a time when there's a lot happening in our country, and we had people from all walks of life and all political parties and all standing together and making that statement, super powerful. You know, it's the kind of thing that just reminds you that we are one nation and that we'll continue to work together no matter what. So it was a powerful moment. So thank you for letting me just ramble for a moment. Super powerful. Okay. We do not have any non-agenda items today, but we do get to start with a presentation, which is always an excellent and fun way to begin our meetings. So today we have the Nestucca, Neskowin, and Sand Lake Watershed Council 2024 Annual Meeting Report. And we have Natalie Knights, Executive Director of the Nestucca, Neskowin, and Sand Lake Watershed Council with us. So Natalie, would you like to come up? And you can let me know if I butchered your last name. If I did, I apologize. Okay, perfect. Come on up, and I assume you and Debbie have coordinated our perfect, and if you can just make sure the microphone is on, that would be fantastic. It should glow green for you.
Okay, it is on.
Okay.
Let me just get this shared. All right, awesome. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to talk to you all about what we've been working on for the 2024 fiscal year. My name is Natalie. I am the Executive Director for the Nestucca, Neskowin, and Sand Lake Watersheds Council. And our theme for 2024 was really focused on our collaborations and partnerships. Just to start out, I'd like to have a refresher of our mission statement, as well as our staff and board members. We're really focused on the restoration and enhancement of riparian and aquatic habitats to benefit not only the people who live within them, but the organisms who rely on them. So our completed projects for 2024, we did our Sand Lake Large Wood Habitat Enhancement Project. This project was placing large wood structures across 3 creeks. And so we had a total of 48 structures in these 3 creeks. And a large wood structure is typically about 2 to 4 large pieces of wood that are interlocked with smaller key pieces to help lock them into the banks so they don't wash out. We had logs donated from CTSI as well as Stimson Lumber, and these 48 structures were across the 3 different creeks. It was really exciting to get to see some monitoring after we implemented this project. We did our first year of monitoring last spring, and our second year is coming up next month. And so some of the results from these large wood structures that we've placed is improving the stream complexity and enhancing floodplain connections. Stream complexity is one of the main limiting factors for the Oregon Coast coho population for their recovery. So it is really important that we do these large wood projects to help increase that complexity. Large wood structures also help with pool formation, which can be a good spot for resting for migratory species as well as cold water. And it also helps deposit those smaller pieces of gravel. And the small pieces of gravel are really important for spawning habitat for salmonid species. They rely on those smaller pieces to make their redds, which is where they deposit their eggs. And so in our first year of monitoring, we did see more redds than were there previously, as well as in places that it would not have been possible previously. Some of our current projects for the 2025 and 2026 years coming up, we are looking to implement the Upper Sutton Fish Passage project this summer. This is 2 culverts, which are barriers to fish passage, and we're looking to replace those with bridges. So we've got some donated bridge beams, and all the design work and permitting has been completed to date. And so we're looking forward to being able to do this project this summer. It should open up about a half-mile of habitat for those salmonid species. In addition to the Upper Sutton project, we're also looking to do the Louis Baxter and Horn Largewood Habitat Enhancement Project. Very similar to the Sand Lake Large Wood Project, we are placing 58 structures across the 3 creeks to again improve spawning habitat and increase stream complexity, which should help to treat about 2 miles of stream, which is awesome. We are hoping this project happens this summer. We do have some federal money that was frozen, so we're not sure if this will be this summer or next, but we are hoping to get this done this summer. So we will see how that goes in the next few months. And then coming up for 2026, Lower Sutton, which is part of the Upper Sutton project as well, or the Proposal Rock Loop, and this is located in Neskowin. This is 2 other culverts that are also blocking fish passage, and back in 2019, as you can see on the picture on the left, the road actually washed out from a flooding event. So this project has been a big priority for us. We've been in the works for, I think, the last 5 years. So we're hoping to implement this in 2026 to help open up more spawning habitat for our salmonid species and also decrease the flood hazards for this area. And our next project for 2026, which I'm really looking forward to, is East Creek. This is 3 culverts topped with about 30 feet of fill, which is quite significant. And over time, obviously, this fill can compact the culverts, which makes them barriers to fish passage and also creates hazards downstream. And so this project, we're looking to remove all 3 culverts and decommission the road, which should help to improve about 11 miles of habitat, which will be a really awesome project. We've got some great partners for this chipping in, so looking forward to getting this project on the ground. We're looking to do some design work this summer for that. And then our ongoing monitoring projects, we have 2 of these in the works. They are both going on their 3rd year of data collection. So our temperature monitoring project, we deploy these hobo temperature loggers in 25 different sites throughout the county. And we do this in partnership with Tillamook Estuaries Partnership as well as the Department of Environmental Quality. We put these loggers out around the end of May and retrieve them in October. And they actually record the temperature every 15 minutes, so we get a lot of data over the summer. And we like to collect long-term data, so hopefully about 8 years of data to really help inform decisions, because as we know, if we have a year that's El Nino, it might be hotter that summer versus the next. And so this can also help to inform us where we'll be doing future project work. Salmon really rely on those cool temperatures throughout the summer months, so this is helping us know where we can work on different projects in the future. In addition to the temperature monitoring, we also have our volunteer-led water quality monitoring, which is looking at E. coli levels throughout, again, the same 25 sites we deploy our temperature loggers, and doing this again in partnership with TEP. They've actually been running their program for, I think, 2 decades now. So they've got some really great data, and we're helping to contribute to that. And the exciting thing about the E. coli monitoring program is that every week we do upload the findings to TEP's website. So they have this really awesome page, their water quality map. It gives you a lot of information on what E. coli is, and that it is naturally occurring, but really when you need to be concerned is when it's over those state thresholds. And so this map is really informative. You can go on and zoom in to the different sites throughout, or I'm sorry, that we're sampling at, and see the last 3 sampling dates, which is really helpful if you want to know what's going on that week in the different streams. Lastly, our outreach and events. We try to stay really engaged with the community. And so in September of 2023, we did our seed collection. We had volunteers help to collect seeds of the pearly everlasting, which is a native species on the coast, as well as transplanting the early blue violet plant seedlings. And that was alongside the Northwest Oregon Restoration Partnership, or NORP, which is part of TEP. In addition to that, for Earth Day in April of 2024, we did the Nestucca Bay cleanup. We do this every other year in partnership with the Nestucca Bay anglers, and this really wouldn't happen without them. They donate their vessels as well as their knowledge to help us navigate the bay. It is difficult if you don't know the tidal exchange, so they help our volunteers get across the bay to places you can't get to on foot. And we were able to remove over 500 pounds of trash from the bay, which was an awesome turnout with 25 volunteers. Lastly, we have our Science on Tap series, which was formerly, I believe, the Science Pub. And this we partner with the Pacific City Pelican Brewing Company. And we bring different natural resource workers throughout the county to talk about what they're doing and engage the community so they can be informed on what's happening around them. And so for the 2024 fiscal year, we had Brylan Brecka, who spoke to us about beavers, which I hope everyone loves. Joshua Rist, who came from the Cedar Creek Fish Hatchery to discuss the broodstock program. And then Jessica Miller from OSU, who was discussing animal movements and migrations in the event of marine heat waves. And upcoming for our Science on Tap series, we had just had one February 19th. This event, we invited Chanel Hasten from the Alaka Alliance, and she did sea otter trivia, which was a big hit. Everybody really enjoyed that event, and it was a lot of fun to have. And our next event will be on April 9th with Samikshaya Budatoki. She is the Master Gardener and Small Farms Extension Specialist with OSU in Tillamook County. And she's also bringing a volunteer, Marcille, and this should be a really fun event. She's going to be educating us about soil health as well as how to build a rain garden on your property, which uses native species to help mitigate flooding and also cleaning water in the watershed. So I just wanted to end by thanking all our partners and volunteers. I can't think of a single thing we do without our partners, and it's really amazing to have so many great partnerships and agencies we work with throughout the county that are very helpful and willing to be there. So thank you to all of them, and especially our volunteers who help to make our bacteria monitoring program run. Lastly, if you'd like to reach out, both of these emails, you can contact me as well as our social media and our website. We also have a quarterly newsletter that you can sign up for. So thank you all for having me. And I guess if anyone has any questions at this time.
Thank you, Natalie. That's fantastic. We really appreciate the report out. Questions or comments, Commissioner Bell? Start with you.
Well, I'd love it. I know that you're a new director. I'd love it if you just talk about the organization for a minute, how long you've been there, how many people are there, what's the scope of work?
Yes, so the Watershed Council has been active since 1997. I joined last year in February, so I've been there just a little over a year now. And we work all throughout Tillamook County, although our focus is really on southern Tillamook County. And we do a lot of our work in partnership with TEP. They've been around for a while doing their monitoring work. So we do a lot of work with alongside them, and they kind of focus more on northern Tillamook County. And right now we are a staff of one, but our board is heavily engaged, which is very helpful. We have 10 board members, and they help a lot to help get all of these projects done because it is a lot of moving parts.
Thank you. That is what I was wondering. You got to it because I was thinking with the body of work you described, which is impressive, how many people are paid to work on that, but just one actually. Most of that's accomplished with volunteer work.
Yes.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah, it is amazing. We have great volunteers.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on your new job.
Thank you.
I was wondering when you were talking about water temperature, if you have any of that information handy or in your head, like I'm just interested in the trend.
So I don't have any of it in my head. I had just started analyzing the results. I know that we submit all our data to DEQ, so I can definitely get that to you. But off the top of my head, I don't have the exact. I know we had a few streams and creeks that were a bit warmer than we'd like to see, but I can't recall the exact ones.
That's okay. The last thing is when you just mentioned beavers, I hope people like that made me laugh because I do like beavers and I have one in the creek on my property. So I'm going to tell you a funny short story. This beaver has been felling alder into the creek, which I don't really care about. So that's fine, and he does his business. But recently he felled an enormous cottonwood, like a 60-foot tree,
Wow.
and not into the creek, just onto the property. And I was looking at that, shaking my head, thinking, "Come on, indulgent mom, like, okay, I guess if you have to cut down my trees."
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's cool
funny.
to see them in action.
Yeah, it really is. Okay.
Excellent. Great story. Love this story. It's fabulous, Natalie. I love the work that you're doing. My husband actually was the manager of the Trask Fish Hatchery for many, many years. We lived there for 20 years. So, water temperatures, water quality, all of those things have been of great interest to me forever because we have watched what's happened with the cycles of salmon in years when we've had warm water, when we've had bacteria, those kind of things. So, I think what you guys do is a really great service to understanding the science and making sure that we're doing the right things in our community to support our salmon runs. We have you are one of our watershed councils, and we greatly appreciate all of the work done by all of our watershed councils because Tillamook County believes in our fisheries. We absolutely do. And I think that the watershed councils help us assure that the impacts that are inevitable by us living here as human beings, right? We're going to have roads that are going to have, and fish need to pass underneath those roads, right? I mean, it's just a reality of living, humans living in the environment alongside of wildlife. And you all really help make that impact less, using the science that says we know that fish passage is important, we can make that happen. Bridges are the better solution. We now know that, and we're working our way forward. So, and I know that the county relies heavily on partners like you when it comes time to turn those culverts into bridges, because we don't have the money to do it all on our own. But as we can recognize the fish passage, advantages to that, we can tap in with you all to some great funding to do the right thing. So, really appreciate that immensely. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it's great working with the county. Everyone's really amenable. It seems like everyone cares a lot about the waterways. So
Paying close attention to what else is happening around you. And Tillamook County does a huge amount of work making sure that we are paying attention and that we are mitigating impacts. And that couldn't be done without watershed councils and the work that you and the volunteers that are part of your organization do. So really appreciate all of it.
yeah, thank you so much. And I'd agree with you. I definitely think it was a good shock to learn that a lot of the timber companies are really reliant on science and they care a lot and they want to see these things happen so that they can continue their business without having bad impacts on the environment. So it's awesome to see.
It is. And I will just say, I know many of those timber folks who are also very avid fisher people.
Yes,
So
yes.
they would like to see our salmon runs be strong and healthy and available for angling, as well. So I think there is this piece where on the ground in Tillamook County, this is our life. This is our livelihood. This is the place we've all chosen to call home, and we really do care. And I think that's again what I love about the Tillamook Working Lands and Waters Collaborative, and what I love about our watershed councils, the Salmon Superhighway project that's here, Tillamook Estuaries Partnership. You know, we have some really robust networks and systems to protect our environment.
Certainly.
Yeah, in addition to living in it and having an inevitable human footprint.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Certainly.
perfect. Any other questions or comments, Commissioner?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank
for
you. Thank you so much for being with us this
Thank
morning.
you so much for
Appreciate your
having
presentation.
me.
And we will look forward. I think we do this annually, so we'll look forward to next year.
Awesome.
Thank you. Okay, and I am remiss, I did not share with the public that we do not have Commissioner Fournier with us today as he is attending another meeting. So he's not sleeping in, he's not slacking off. He's at another meeting representing the county. So it'll be just the two of us today. Okay. Moving on to our legislative administrative agenda, item number 6, consideration of a personal services agreement with Rock Crest Consulting for the Tillamook County Resilience Plan Project. Randy Thorpe, Director of Emergency Services. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, Commissioners. What this is, yes, I got a green light.
Oh, good. Green light, go.
What this is our contract with the consultant that we decided to hire to help write this plan for the county. And to let you know, the $50,000 is all grant money. It is a grant from the Oregon Department of Energy, and it was specifically for developing a energy resiliency plan for each of the counties. So luckily, it's not coming out of our budget. That's the best thing we like. And so I met with this company with Angela as I was making the decision, and I was so impressed. I think this is definitely going to be a right decision. And I found out that she is working with the other consultants that are working on these plans throughout the state, and also with the Department of Energy. So, I mean, so her proposal went way to the top because I was just so impressed in what she's doing. And so I think it's going to be great. We've got another meeting today, this afternoon, and it's just a meeting with some of the partners. It's mainly going to be Tillamook People's Utility District. They're going to be a major player with helping us develop this. And so she's already starting to schedule meetings and everything else. So I think it's going to be a great thing for us to have. It's not mandated by anybody, but it's going to be a great thing to have, especially after listening to Todd talk about the future of energy in our county. I mean, it just played right into this planning and this grant. So they're really looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to it because we are kind of unique here. We don't have our own generating power capability here, and we don't have natural gas. We've only got one electrical provider, so it's very unique. And so I think it also makes it a little bit more difficult for us. And so this plan, I think, is going to hopefully address those issues and get us ready for the future. So do you have any questions?
Excellent. Thank you. Commissioner Bell, any questions or comments?
Thank you. I'm really glad that we're doing this, and thank you for finding the grant money to fund it. That's really well done, great job on your part because we need it. And it is so important. I was just thinking while you were talking about times we've had extended power outages in Tillamook County. I was thinking about the 2007 storm. I lived on the Upper Nestucca, and I know we didn't have power for at least 5 days. And I think that was true in North County also. And I think actually that because there were so many landslides, people were totally isolated. And I think that was the birth of EVCNB because they were isolated and without power for a long period of time. And then they looked around at one another in the community and thought, we're not prepared for this. We should have been prepared for this. So something really good came out of it. But it's a serious issue here, and there are so many places where we can be isolated by road failures and landslides and down trees, etc. That this is essential work, and bravo to you for getting it funded.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And to say, the other thing that makes it unique is we're dependent upon transmission lines coming in from the other side of the mountain. And our last few outages have not been our local lines. It's been
that came and spoke with the commissioners that were at the meeting and talking about energy across the state of Oregon and the challenges that we face. And it's the same exact things that, Todd was sharing with us around energy generation, around adequacy of energy. It's great that there are these data centers that are finding homes in Eastern Oregon. It's a wonderful economic opportunity out there, and they are just pulling so much power from our power grid that that we're not really prepared for. We have not, as a state, prepared for how we will generate more power into the future. And a lot of great minds working on it, but I think it's an interesting question, as you pointed out, for us locally, because they may find great ways to get more power coming out of Eastern Oregon, but they don't necessarily have a way to get it to us. So what happens for us in a resiliency situation, whether that is just hot days in the summer that turn into brownouts for us because all that power is being pulled off the grid before it gets here, or whether it's the storms that we're used to, which become isolation for us and we have to do our own thing. Having a resiliency plan that really lays out the understanding of our situation and begins to dream for the future. I saw an interesting segment on Sunday morning this last week about small nuclear, which is part of the conversation we had when Todd was here. And actually small and large nuclear. So what's happening is the AI industry that needs this huge amount of power for their data centers are actually looking at small nuclear as well. And so we currently have tech companies putting an intense amount of resources into, can nuclear be done ever safely, either in small or large plants? So it's an interesting time for us to also be looking at our needs and how we will take care of them in various situations, as the world around us is looking at the same thing. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Yeah, it'll be great. We just got to figure out a way to harness the waste products from the dairy cows and try to turn that into, there are, I guess, a couple of digesters that are here, but they're only large enough to run the farms that they're on. And so,
Correct.
I thought, man, if we could somehow harvest that, that'd be great. But anyway.
Well, and we had a larger digester here. Are you familiar with the digester at the port?
Yes.
Yeah, and it financially didn't work.
Right.
To haul the product as far as you had to haul it, it just didn't work. But there is a small digester just down the road from my house. Whenever I go south, I go by their little flame burning there and, see what they're up to. So, yeah.
Guess we got to put one all in our backyards.
Well, and I think those are some of the questions, right,
Yes.
that come up, not necessarily digester specific, but what about small wind on our homes, small solar, with the technology, and Todd talked about this, of solar getting better. It is viable at some level, even here on the coast. So yeah, it was interesting being at the Association of Oregon Counties. There was a lot of conversation because there are bills passing through the state legislature that are related to the siting of energy facilities. And so while right now we can kind of look at those and say, well, that's nice, it doesn't really apply to us because we don't see wind or solar over here yet. There was specifically a bill in that was proposed that I don't think it's gotten a hearing, and I don't think it will, but it was a bill that would allow the state forester to lease out state forest land specifically for energy generation. And it was a really interesting question, in part because if they're leased for energy generation, they're not available for harvest, which is, of course, how the trust land counties participate in receiving revenue. So then would we receive part of the lease? How would this work? What would it mean? But people are really looking, I think, broadly and outside the box in many ways about energy generation because of the very conversations we're having, and what will that look like across the state of Oregon.
Yeah, it'll be great. I'll love to present that final plan to you this fall.
Yeah, we'll look forward to it.
So.
Yeah. Other questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So it looks like we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of a personal services agreement with RockQuest Consulting for the Tillamook County Resilience Plan Project.
And I would second. Any further discussion? I always feel so silly with the two of us, doesn't it? We just talked about it. Okay, so hearing no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we will move on to agenda item number 7, which is consideration of a personal services agreement number 24/25/021 with Reed Group for a modernization and strategic plan. Marlene Putman, Administrator, Health and Human Services. Good morning, Marlene.
Good morning. I am excited about this proposal here, this agreement with the Reed Group, as it will move forward some of our public health modernization work along with our strategic planning work for the department. And thirdly, it will align with our community health needs assessment and the community health improvement plan that we do with our healthcare partners. So it sounds like a lot with the short term of this contract, which runs from March 3rd through June 30th, 2025. The total is for $50,000, which is funded with our public health modernization funds. For those who follow the program elements, it's program element 51-01 under modernization. And the Reed Group is working with us on multiple things, as I mentioned. So as you know, and many people know, in addition to the primary care clinics and our medical, dental, and behavioral health, it's our responsibility in the health department to implement these public health program elements and the related requirements. So one of the components of public health modernization, which is now one of those program elements, is for public health to quote unquote.
We've had been dropping in and out of the internet here. We lost probably about the last 30 seconds to a minute of your presentation here in the room.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, can you just go back about a minute? Did we lose Marlene in that transition?
Not my message.
Okay. So are we back live?
Yeah,
Oh, hi, everybody. We're back. Having some technology glitches. Oh, Jane. Okay, and we're back with TCV TV online as well. It looks like we may have lost our presenter in that technology glitch, so we're going to give her a moment and see if she logs back in. And Justin's not on his. Oh, he is. I see him up there. So while we wait to see if Marlene is able to log back in with us, I will go ahead and we will jump ahead, if that works for everyone, to item number 8, which is consideration of change order number 1 to solid waste contract for general services number 6614 with Recology Western Oregon for the hauling of municipal solid waste, yard debris, and other materials from the Manzanita Transfer Station to the Tillamook Transfer Station. And we have Justin Weiss with us, our solid waste program manager. Good morning, Justin. Thank you for your flexibility to jump ahead here, and we'll circle back to Marlene after you.
Yeah, no problem. Good morning, commissioners. So before you this morning, we have our change order number 1 for our contract with Recology of Western Oregon for hauling of garbage, yard debris out of our Manzanita transfer station and into the Tillamook transfer station, where it's processed and then shipped over to Coffin Butte. So we have a variety of different prices based on hauling 1 container, 2 containers, extra charges for hauling on Sundays. We did have a price increase for CPI to keep up with inflation. That's reflected in the new prices. And then you may have noticed there is an effective March 1st date on the change order. There was a little bit of confusion on my part with this went before the commissioners in February. We didn't get a signature till, I believe, late March or early April from the contractor, unfortunately. So there is going to be a little bit of a retroactive in terms of the agreement, but not too much of a gap there. And this will be up to 3 more years of contracted work with Recology for hauling out of Manzanita. And happy to answer any questions if you do have any.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner?
I do not have any questions, and I am supportive.
I agree. Obviously, waste service is important, and we need to keep up with the cost of doing business. So I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move approval of change order number 1 to solid waste contract for general services number 6614 with Recology Western Oregon for the hauling of municipal solid waste, yard debris, and other materials from the Manzanita Transfer Station to the Tillamook Transfer Station.
I would second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a great day.
You too. Okay, we will circle back. Marlene, if you are back with us.
It works this time, and it wasn't just me.
I think it was a combination of all of us. So thank you for your patience and thank you for being willing to log out and in and whatever things you did on your end. Let's see how we do. So we were having a lovely conversation about public health modernization, and I think you were just beginning to tell us a little bit about what the requirements maybe are of public health modernization in your organization, so or in your department.
Yeah, thank you for that. So some of the components related to public health modernization include responding to extreme weather-related events, some environmental issues that may occur in areas during those types of conditions, preparing for those, anticipating those kinds of things. Second thing that's really important after COVID is communicable disease, not just for COVID-19, but other things like H5N1 or other communicable disease response. Also, in this list of items is access to care and responding to community-wide chronic health conditions. So understanding those, looking at the epidemiology and cause for those kinds of things is also a public health response to look at the big picture, what's really impacting the health of our communities. And the other big area is about outreach and engagement to make sure we're not just addressing those that have access to care, but also those who may not, or folks that may struggle to get access or to be able to afford it, to be able to transport, get to it physically, get there, to understand how to respond in the event of a public health emergency, for example. So those are just some examples of those components. So we're working with the Reed Group, as I mentioned, and the Reed Group is a well-known and respected consulting firm for community planning and community health in Oregon and elsewhere. They are the lead contractor right now working with the Oregon Health Authority on public health modernization. So we feel fortunate to be working with them to develop an action plan for our strategic plan that will incorporate our public health modernization components that I just mentioned. And then further, we'll align with what we do every couple of years with our health co-partners is do a community health needs assessment. What are those health issues that exist and how can we work on them together? And we create a plan to do that together. So our goal is to have these combined in the plan for the department and to be able to demonstrate that more clearly when sharing the information to county commissioners, other elected officials, community members, and our own staff, so they understand how this impacts their work. So that is more detailed, more specifically in the scope of work that we have attached to the document. That's kind of the big overview. It is in a fairly short time frame for that amount of work, but we've done a lot of the work behind the scenes already. So the time frame runs from March 3rd, excuse me, through June 30 of 2025. It is for $50,000, and the funds we're using for this planning work, appropriately, I think, are from public health modernization funds that are designed for this purpose in particular. Happy to go into more detail if there are questions about the scope of work that we have with the Reed Group.
Thank you, Marlene. I think, the public health modernization, the legislature kind of goes in cycles in what they would like to fund. And for many, many, many years, maybe decades, public health was not a priority. And a few sessions ago, public health became a priority and this modernization program started. And I feel like it probably started before I became a commissioner, but I know you and I talked about it right when I became a commissioner because it really is such a sort of broad reaching look at public health. We are looking at things like, climate change and, pieces that are bigger than just a pandemic or something we might have identified in the past. And it's put a fair body of work on public health departments across the state to make sure that we are prepared. Randy just presented to us about the energy resiliency, right? That's some preparation that's happening on the emergency management side along with the wildfire plan, and there's a whole bunch of things that he's required to do, or we are under his guidance. This is one of the big ones that we are required to do as a county under your guidance. So thank you for the additional work that I know Public Health Modernization has placed upon you and your department to make sure we're just better prepared into a changing world. So thank you for that. I think this is a great contract. I know the Reed Group has done some really good work with you already, and I feel strongly that they'll do great work with this project as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I am fully supportive. I appreciate your explanation. I think the work is exciting, and I'm grateful that you got through your presentation. So I think we should
Too.
Let's vote. Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the approval of a personal services agreement number 24/25-021 with the Reed Group for a modernization and strategic plan.
And I would second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Marlene.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too. Okay, this was a very short agenda today, even with our technical difficulties. We're at only 9:45. Are there any board concerns for you today, Commissioner Bell?
Not today, thank you.
Okay. I will take just a moment to talk about the National Association of Counties Conference in Washington, D.C. that I just returned from. I made reference to it in the beginning as we talked about the Pledge of Allegiance. That conference had 2,000 commissioners from all across the nation attending, presenting, being part of just an amazing opportunity to share the combined knowledge that we all have. So it was a great conference. I had the opportunity at the conference to speak about the biological opinion. We all know a fair bit about biological opinion. We've talked about it at length, but just very quickly, if you are watching this broadcast and you are not familiar, biological opinion comes out of a court ruling, and it is an action being taken by FEMA, which ties together the flood insurance program, response to emergencies, and the Endangered Species Act, which we question exactly what those things have to do with one another. And that was really my presentation at the conference, was that we wanted other counties across the nation to know what actions were being taken, and the fact that some of these actions would in fact impact all counties across the nation. As the changes are made in Oregon, some of them will be codified in the Federal Register, and they will become applicable in places beyond Oregon. So that was really important, we felt, to share that with fellow commissioners across the nation, because we feel like we are fighting the fight not only for the economic viability of our own communities, but also economic viability for communities and counties all across the nation. So it was a good opportunity, going back to Washington, D.C., to let other commissioners know this is coming your way, be prepared, and to invite them to join us if they would like to in talking with their representatives, their senators. And we do have a lawsuit pending. We've talked about that in a prior meeting. That lawsuit is in a DC court. We have received, I believe, some requests from the judge for additional information. So it is, I won't say it's actively being worked, but there's definitely some action on the lawsuit. So again, we wanted to let counties from across the nation know if this concerns you and you want to be a part of that, we invite your participation. The other thing I was able to do while I was in Washington, D.C. was visit with both of Oregon's senators, as well as every state representative from the state of Oregon, those that represent our community and those that just simply represent other parts of the state. The biological opinion impacts 31 out of 36 counties, so the listening from our state representatives was exceptional. Many of them knew about the biological opinion, but some of them did not, and it was a great opportunity just to make sure that everyone's aware that this is a significant issue for our community and all communities with floodplains in Oregon and beyond. We also had the opportunity to talk with our elected folks about whether or not there may be a different outcome that can be achieved. We know that we have a new administration at the federal government, which means there's a new look at FEMA. There's new staff in FEMA. And so it's an opportunity for us to potentially reset that table. Had a really good conversation, in fact, with Senator Wyden related to potentially resetting that FEMA table for conversation. We had a great presentation this morning from one of our watershed councils, and I think one of the things that we really feel FEMA has missed is that Tillamook County is exceptionally committed to protecting our endangered species. Our coho salmon here in Tillamook County are among the strongest salmon runs we have. We have really looked hard at what they need, and we're trying to provide that for them. So for FEMA to take the draconian measures that they're talking about in our floodplains with the ability to have any human-caused change is just, it's over the top. So what we're hoping is maybe this is a table that can be reset for a conversation that acknowledges and recognizes that the Oregon state land use system already has some very significant restrictions in development in our floodplain, and that we as a community and even across the state of Oregon have a watershed council system. We are working everywhere with private landowners to make sure that we are taking good care of our environment. So it was a great opportunity to share those messages with, like I said, fellow county commissioners, with our elected representation, with representatives, in fact, from the White House. The White House has an intergovernmental affairs department, which includes someone for the Western region that we were able to talk to, as well as the person who oversees that entire department for intergovernmental, to talk about the biological opinion and to say, you know, we want to talk about it. We feel like, you know, it's being legislated by a court without really understanding what's on the ground in our community. So again, a good opportunity to be back there, a good opportunity to share our message, as well as the message of secure rural schools, which is another important piece of legislation that impacts Tillamook County. As we have reduced the harvest in the federal forests, and you've heard Chris Laity and others talk about what's happening in our public works department as we have lost that federal funding and the reductions from 50 employees in our public works department many years ago down to 27, I think it is now. Really looking at sort of that change. Well, when that happened, there was a bill passed at the federal level called the Secure Rural Schools Act, which is intended to provide funding to our roads, which is where we lost roads, and to our schools. It has to be reauthorized with every budget session, and right now it was not authorized in the most recent budget. So we are now sitting without timber harvest revenue from the federal, and we are also sitting without the replacement revenue of Secure Rural Schools. And for our public roads department, that ends up being somewhere between $500,000 and $700,000. So that's upwards beyond $500,000 in our road department. It's very, very significant. So we understand that at the federal level, they've made choices around harvest, but what we've asked is through the Secure Rural Schools is to be kept whole. And this has been something that Senator Wyden has been a champion for forever, bless his heart. And he actually spoke at the conference to, again, all 2,000 county commissioners across the nation to say, if you have public lands, you need to be paying attention. You need to be helping us get this across the finish line at the federal government. I don't know that it will happen. We're all watching the reconciliation that's going through right now, and I do not believe it's in this final reconciliation. So we continue to fight to see if we can get it added. But that was another talking point for my time in Washington, D.C. with our elected officials is secure rural schools is not just a nice thing. It's a crucial piece of what we receive that helps us provide the services that our residents deserve. So again, just a good opportunity to be there, a good opportunity to share the information from the ground here with the folks who represent us. So with that, I will end, but I think it's important. Yeah.
Speaking of timber revenue, I would like to mention that I talked to Commissioner Olson, former Commissioner Olson last night, Doug and Patty. They are in Arizona. They love to go to Arizona to spring training, so they watched the 6 baseball games and have had a ball. But while they were there, they made a trip to Prescott, Arizona, and visited David and Terry Yamamoto.
Nice.
So he was able to share with me that David and Terry are doing great. They're very happy in Prescott, Arizona, and David is volunteering. He's on a citizen advisory board to juvenile department, and just they're plugged into their community. They're really happy, but they talked about our budget problem. Of course,
Of course they did.
And David shared that he thinks that our way forward is to take back Tillamook State Forest and manage them ourselves, which I have been thinking for some time. So I think we ought to continue that conversation.
So there's a bill in the legislature right now, in fact, that would allow counties to request back their timberland. I unfortunately don't expect that it will get through the system But it is in the legislature. I will also share that that was one of the conversations at the small table group, which we haven't talked about because the small table group is kind of ground to a halt right now, where the governor invited the 15 trust land counties to come to the table and talk about opportunities and options to restore revenue after the habitat conservation plan. The last place that landed was in the recommendation was to take money out of the schools and let it be backfilled by the Common School Fund. That did not get a go forward pass from the trust land counties for obvious reasons. We support our schools. And so that conversation is kind of ground to a halt. But in the initial brainstorm of possibilities for that group, taking back the land was one of them. It's been explored by some attorneys in some counties who've not yet found the path forward absent the state saying yes. So again, there is a bill for that one in the legislature. We'll see where that goes. There is also a bill in the legislature for sustainable harvest on the state forest. And that bill would really not change the amount of harvest that the department is required to do. They would need to follow all of their plans, all of their rules, but they would need to do a better job of modeling, because the models that seem to come out of the Department of Forestry are consistently inaccurate with what actually happens on the ground. We know that here based on the revenues that they give us in a projection and say we're going to receive this much revenue, and we don't. And so this bill that's in the legislature would require them to invest in better modeling to really understand what is in the asset on the ground, so that prior to laying out their sales and doing all that, they would really actually know how much timber is there and how much revenue could be expected. And then it would also hold them to account. So if they said we're going to, harvest 47 million board feet in Tillamook, which by the way is the average amount that they harvest in Tillamook, and in Tillamook they're pretty good at achieving that 47 million board feet, but we're a little bit of an odd one out because of the burn. So much of our timber is equal age. But in other areas, they're vastly off in how much they say they'll harvest. And this bill that's in the legislature now for sustainable harvest simply says, if your model says you can harvest 47 million board feet and instead you harvest 40, the next year you have to make up the difference. So it's really trying to be more of an accountability measure for the Department of Forestry rather than pushing for more harvest than the conservation plans allow. That isn't the point. The point is simply, if you don't make it because you were wrong about how many trees are in that stand, you need to identify another sale and make up the difference. So that's another one. That one was brought in last session as well and did not pass. So we are hopeful that this session perhaps it will. There's a lot popping at the legislature for sure, but those are two of the timber ones that I'm aware of. But yes, Senate Bill 404, I believe, is the Take Your Timber Back bill.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll keep watching and working that. And the Council of Forest Trust Land Counties, of which we are a member, of which I am the chair, endorsed that bill. AOC subsequently endorsed that bill as well with a due pass. So we've put behind it what we can in terms of our organizations, and now it will be for us as commissioners if we feel that's a stance that we would like to take to move forward with continuing to support that bill.
It's an overwhelming idea to take back the forests and everything that entails, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be done. And at this point, I feel like we could probably do as good or better a job.
And I think some of the questions and challenges, let's have a conversation about timber. Some of the questions and challenges have been, does it come back to us with the habitat conservation plan on it? And how does that then impact our ability and our requirements? And so I think it's a great conversation to have. I think that, from my perspective, a feasibility study would be a key piece to us to making that determination. But getting the bill passed is the first step, which just gives us the option. Right now, there is no option. And attorneys who have looked at it have said, yeah, there was no just kidding, or I want to reverse this clause in the paperwork and legality of what was done when it was deeded over originally. So this would be a change required. But yeah, I think it's a worthy conversation. There are counties around the state that have their own timberlands. There are those who manage their own timberlands, and there are those who contract out the harvest of their timberlands. So there's a number of models around the state that could be looked at to see if it were viable.
Right.
So lots popping. Thank you for letting me just kind of update everyone on
Thank you.
Washington, D.C. Okay. No birds concerns from you?
No.
All right, so let me read our announcements and then we will adjourn from there. So the commissioners will hold a board briefing on Wednesday, March 12th, 2025 at 2 p.m. to discuss weekly commissioner updates. The meeting will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 at the Tillamook County Courthouse, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-3149. Conference ID 866-914-607#. The local Public Safety Coordinating Council teleconference will be held on Monday, March 17th, 2025 at 12 p.m. The meeting will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 in the Tillamook County Courthouse, 201 Laurel Avenue. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-3149, conference ID 155-859-952#. The commissioners will meet with circuit court judges and staff on Tuesday, March 18th, 2025 at 1 p.m. to discuss circuit court facility space. The meeting will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 at the Tillamook County Courthouse, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook. A supplemental budget meeting of the Tillamook County Budget Committee will be held on Wednesday, March 19th, 2025 at 2 p.m. to discuss and approve updates and changes to the current fiscal year 24-25 budget. The meeting will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 in the Tillamook County Courthouse, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-2149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Okay, with that, we will adjourn this meeting at 10:02 a.m. Are things, Bill?
Good, Aaron, really good.
Life's just trucking along. You
Yeah.
fishing? You out there catching steelhead?
Yeah, a few in the mornings early,
Yeah.
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 And the pressure's down now, you
Yeah.
know, and most of the people from the valley are starting to fish springers and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. But the locals can get back out.
That's right.
Okay.
Was it you yesterday, Mary Faith? I was listening to the community updates and somebody, I think it was the mayor of Manzanita who said something about just turning things off and then it worked again.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking about when we were having, that's about the extent of my technological
Oh, mine too. That's my only
ability.
trick.
That's agreed. And it works so often that you're like, well, apparently it's a valid trick.
That's what I did yesterday morning.
Mhm.
My work phone didn't work.
Oh.
So I turned it off and called in on my first.
And I never recognized that one, so I muted you. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I don't know.